He thought she was just another kid on the street, an easy mark for his casual cruelty. 10-year-old artist Izzy Diaz walking home in the California sun, sketchbook in hand. Then, Officer Marcus Thorne shattered more than just her arm. He shattered her innocence. But Thorne made a catastrophic miscalculation. He had no idea that Izzy's desperate silent call had already reached Zara Z. Petrova, ex-Special Forces, MMA champion, and the fiercely protective sister of Steven Seagal. What began as one cop's brutal act of violence ignites a firestorm, a relentless crusade for justice spearheaded by a family that never backs down. This isn't just a story of revenge. It's about dismantling a corrupt system, piece by painstaking piece, proving that even the smallest voice, when amplified by unwavering loyalty, can bring giants to their knees. You will want to see how this ends. The late afternoon sun bled gold across the streets of Oceanside, California, painting long skeletal shadows that danced with the palm trees. 10-year-old Isabel, Izzy Diaz, hummed a quiet tune, her worn sketchbook clutched protectively under one arm, a half-eaten green apple in her other hand. It had been an ordinary Tuesday. School, then the community art club, where she'd been perfecting her charcoal rendering of a soaring hawk. She was just a kid, a gentle soul with an artist's eye, making her way home. 2 blocks from her sanctuary, a black-and-white patrol car, its engine a low growl, sidled up beside her. The driver, Officer Marcus Thorne, a man whose presence seemed to leach the warmth from the air, leaned out. His reflective sunglasses mirrored Izzy's small, startled face. "Lost, little one?" His voice was a gravelly drawl, slick with a condescension that prickled Izzy's skin. Izzy stopped, her heart thumping a nervous rhythm. "No, officer. I live just down there." She pointed a small, paint-smudged finger. "ID," Thorne barked, the word a sharp command, not a question. "I'm 10, she replied, confusion clouding her bright hazel eyes. "I don't have ID." The car door creaked open, and Thorne emerged, his polished boots hitting the pavement with a thud that seemed to shake the quiet street. He was a mountain of a man. His uniform stretched taut over a frame built more for intimidation than service. "Parents?" he demanded, his gaze sweeping over her dismissively. "At home, sir," Izzy said, a tremor in her voice. "I just came from art club." "Don't get lippy with me," he snapped. His hand shot out, a blur of motion, and clamped around her thin wrist like a vice. Izzy froze, a gasp catching in her throat. "I didn't do anything," she whispered, yanking instinctively, fruitlessly. "Please, let go." Her sketchbook tumbled to the sidewalk, pages fluttering open to reveal her beloved hawk. The apple bounced once, then rolled into the gutter, forgotten. Thorne twisted her arm, his grip tightening mercilessly. "You've got a smart mouth for such a tiny thing," he snarled, yanking her arm up behind her back. Then a sickening crack, the unmistakable, horrifying sound of bone splintering. Izzy screamed, a raw, piercing cry of agony that tore through the placid afternoon. Her legs buckled, and she crumpled to the ground, sobbing, her world dissolving into a vortex of pain and terror. Her arm, bent at an unnatural angle, throbbed with an intensity that stole her breath. Thorne loomed over her, his breathing heavy, a dark silhouette against the fading sun. "That's what happens when you don't cooperate," he growled, his hand reaching for his handcuffs as if she were a hardened felon. But Thorne didn't know. He couldn't know. As his fingers had closed around her wrist, Izzy, fueled by a primal surge of fear and the ingrained lessons from her formidable aunt, had already pressed and held the emergency shortcut on her cheap burner phone. A direct silent line to Zara Z. Petrova, Steven Seagal's sister, an ex-Special Forces operative with a mind like a steel trap and reflexes honed in theaters of war most people only saw in movies. Z was a regional MMA champion, and more importantly, the only person Steven Seagal implicitly trusted with his daughter's life when he was away. Z answered on the first silent pulse. She heard everything: Thorne's menacing voice, Izzy's terrified pleas, and the gut-wrenching snap. She didn't waste a second on words. Keys, hoodie, the door slamming behind her. She was a blur of focused fury. "You just picked the wrong damn kid," she whispered, her voice a low growl as her car engine roared to life. At Oceanside General, the ER was its usual symphony of controlled chaos. But when paramedics wheeled in a small, dark-haired girl, her arm grotesquely misshapen, with no accompanying adult and a terse explanation of police drop-off, an uneasy hush fell over the attending staff. "Who brought her in?" a triage nurse demanded, her eyes wide with concern. "PD," one of the EMTs grunted. "Didn't give a name or precinct, just left her by the entrance and peeled out." The medical team sprang into action. X-rays, pain medication, a temporary splint. But Izzy couldn't stop the tears, couldn't stop the whispered refrain. "I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." A perceptive nurse, gently trying to comfort her, noticed the cheap phone clutched tightly in Izzy's uninjured hand. The screen glowed faintly. Ongoing call. Z. Petrova. Duration: 37 minutes. 37 minutes. 37 minutes during which Z. Petrova had been a ghost, a silent witness, consuming every second of her niece's ordeal. Now, less than 20 miles away, she was a tempest hurtling down the I-5, the recording of Izzy's terror playing on a loop in her mind. Each scream, each sob, each crackle of static etching itself deeper into her resolve. She'd drilled Izzy on that emergency shortcut, a grim precaution in a world that too often preyed on the vulnerable. Never had she imagined it would be used like this. Her other phone, her direct line, buzzed. Steven Seagal. "I'm on my way to Oceanside Gen," Z said, her voice tight, controlled. "Report," Steven's voice rumbled, distant thunder on the verge of a cataclysmic storm. "He broke her arm, Steven." A heavy silence, then a guttural sound, barely human, a promise of retribution. "Where is he?" "Gone. Dumped her and ran like the coward he is." "He doesn't get to disappear, Z," Steven stated, each word laden with chilling intent. "Find him, hold him accountable. If I have to tear down the precinct brick by brick, I will." "I've got her, Steven," Z said, her voice softening slightly. "You just get here." He hung up without another word. Z stormed into Oceanside General, bypassing the reception desk like a heat-seeking missile. "Izzy Diaz, 10 years old, broken arm. Emergency contact, room number, now." Her tone brooked no argument. A startled nurse pointed. "Room 3. The sight that greeted her made Z's chest constrict. Izzy, so small, so pale, lay trembling in the oversized hospital bed, her arm encased in a bulky temporary cast, tears still tracking through the grime on her cheeks. The moment their eyes met, Izzy's fragile composure shattered, and a fresh wave of sobs racked her tiny frame. Z was on her knees by the bedside in an instant, her arms a gentle fortress around her niece. "I'm here, little hawk. I've got you," she whispered, her voice a soothing balm. Izzy clung to her, her words tumbling out in a torrent of fear and pain. He grabbed me. I told him my name. I even told him I was Steven Seagal's daughter." Z froze. "You told him?" Izzy nodded, fresh tears spilling. He laughed, Aunt Z. He laughed at me." Z's blood turned to ice. This wasn't random. This wasn't a cop panicking or making a mistake. This was deliberate, targeted, malicious. She gently retrieved Izzy's phone, opened the audio file of the emergency call, and pressed play. The small room filled with Izzy's terrified voice, Thorne's aggressive shouts, the screams, that sickening snap. The nurses in earshot went pale. One gasped, "Dear God!" Another whispered, "Do you know who the officer was?" "I'm about to," Z said, her eyes like chips of obsidian. Outside Izzy's room, she cornered the charge nurse, then the EMTs. No name, no badge number from the drop-off. But there was a dispatch log, a faint digital footprint. Patrol Unit 217. She snapped a photo of the log and sent it to her trusted contact, Detective Lena Hansen in LAPD's Internal Affairs, a woman who owed Z more than one favor. "Lena, it's Z. Need intel fast. Oceanside PD. Officer assaulted a 10-year-old girl. Broke her arm, then dumped her. I have audio. Unit 217 was in the vicinity." "You got it, Z." "Give me 10. Hansen's voice came back, crisp and professional. 10 minutes later, Z's phone chimed. Officer Marcus Thorne. Badge number 4882. Patrol car details. And, crucially, a list of prior complaints. Excessive force, intimidation, all quietly resolved or dismissed. Z looked at the X-ray of Izzy's shattered radius and ulna, the dark bruises blooming on her delicate skin. The phantom terror still haunting her eyes. "Thorne," she murmured, "you're about to learn why they call me the Storm Crow." By the time Izzy was sedated and resting more comfortably, Z stood like a sentinel outside her door. Her phone buzzed. Hansen again. "We got him pinpointed. Thorne, badge 4882, Oceanside Division. Wasn't even officially on shift. Took the cruiser for a quick run. Standard MO for him when he's bored." "Where is he now?" Z's voice was dangerously calm. "Eats every Tuesday night at a greasy spoon called the Salty Dog Diner. Same booth, same time. Creature of habit." "Don't do anything I wouldn't do, Z," Hansen warned, a hint of amusement in her voice. But Z was already moving. "Oh, I'm not going to lay a finger on him," she said, a chilling smile touching her lips. "Not yet." At the Salty Dog Diner, Officer Marcus Thorne was holding court in his usual corner booth, laughing boisterously at something on his phone, barking at the waitress for a refill. Z parked across the street, watching, her patience a predatory stillness. 15 minutes later, she walked in. The bell above the door jingled, and a few heads turned. She moved with an unnerving grace, approaching his table. "Yeah? What can I do for you?" Thorne grumbled, annoyed at the interruption. Z didn't speak. She simply pulled out her phone, tapped the screen. Izzy's voice, small and terrified, filled the suddenly quiet diner. "Please stop. That hurts. I didn't do anything." Then, the unmistakable, visceral crack. The diner fell into a stunned silence. Thorne's greasy smirk evaporated. Where did you get that?" he stammered, his face paling. "You recognize the soundtrack to your afternoon, Officer Thorne?" Z asked, her voice soft, lethal. "She was resisting arrest," he blustered, his eyes darting around. "She's 10 years old, and she's Steven Seagal's daughter," Z stated, letting the name hang in the air. Thorne's face went ashen. "And I," she added, leaning in slightly, "am Zara Seagal Petrova, his sister." He opened his mouth, but no sound emerged. "Are you threatening me?" he finally managed, trying to regain some bravado. "Officer," Z said, her smile not reaching her eyes, "if I were threatening you, you'd be tasting the linoleum by now." She slid a neatly folded napkin across the table. On it she'd written, "Room 3, Oceanside General. Izzy Diaz, 10 years old. Broken arm. Audio evidence, witnesses, Internal Affairs notified. By the time my brother lands, Officer Thorne, you'll be lucky if you're just out of a job. You people think you can—" Thorne began, his voice rising. Z slammed both hands flat on the table. The cutlery jumped. The diner collectively flinched. "What you did today, Thorne, wasn't policing. It was cowardice. You brutalized a child. You picked the wrong child. And now I'm going to dismantle your life. piece by piece. She turned to leave. The next time I see you in that uniform, I sincerely hope it's during your perp walk. She walked out, the bell jingling mockingly behind her. Her phone buzzed. Hanson. Waitress from the Salty Dog just called dispatch. Said a woman confronted Thorne, played some recording, mentioned Steven Seagal. Things got tense. Z allowed herself a grim smile. Let's just say, she replied, I left him something to chew on besides his burger. You're not done, are you, Z? Hanson asked, a note of resignation in her voice. Z looked towards the horizon, where the last vestiges of sunlight painted the sky in hues of bruised purple and blood orange. Lena, she said softly, I haven't even begun. By sunrise, Oceanside was buzzing. The audio from Izzy Diaz's phone, anonymously uploaded to a whistleblower site, had ignited a firestorm. Within 12 hours, it had been amplified by local news outlets, then picked up by national aggregators. It was raw, undeniable, and deeply disturbing. A child's terrified pleas, an officer's brutal aggression, the sickening sound of violence. People didn't just listen. They reacted. They shared. They raged. The hashtag number sign, Justice for Izzy, exploded across social media. When the victim's connection to action star Steven Seagal was confirmed, the story achieved escape velocity. This wasn't just another statistic. This was personal, and it had a famous, formidable name attached. By 9 a.m., Officer Marcus Thorne had scrubbed his social media, disconnected his phone, and called in sick. Too late. News vans were already camped outside his suburban home, a news helicopter circling overhead like a vulture. Inside the Oceanside Police Department, the mood was a toxic cocktail of fear and fury. Whispers, sideways glances, hasty closed-door meetings. No one, not even his staunchest defenders, dared to speak up for Thorne publicly. The audio was too damning. Meanwhile, at Oceanside General, Z. Petrova kept a quiet vigil by Izzy's bedside. The child was stable, the pain managed, but a profound sadness clung to her. Her new, sturdier cast was already adorned with messages of support from the nursing staff. You're so brave, Izzy. We believe you. Justice is coming. Steven Seagal had yet to arrive. He was on a transatlantic flight, a silent, coiled spring of paternal rage. Z had deliberately kept the initial updates to him sparse, clinical. She needed him to land, to see Izzy, before the full, unfiltered fury of Steven Seagal was unleashed upon the city. If he saw his daughter's broken body before knowing the full story, before a plan was in place, Oceanside might not survive the fallout. At 11:13 a.m., Z. Petrova, now dressed in a sharply tailored dark pantsuit, walked into the lobby of the Oceanside Police Department. She radiated an aura of controlled power that made the desk sergeant sit up straighter. She didn't request, she informed. I'm here to see Captain Eva Rostova, now. She placed a slim black leather folio on the counter. Inside, screenshots of the dispatch log, a transcript of the emergency call, EMT drop-off statements, and a formal letter from Detective Lena Hanson, confirming an active internal affairs investigation into Officer Thorne. 10 minutes later, Z faced Captain Rostova, a woman whose stern expression and weary eyes spoke of years navigating the treacherous currents of law enforcement politics. Ms. Petrova, Rostova began, her voice carefully neutral. Internal Affairs is already looking into this. Officer Thorne has been placed on administrative leave. Z raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Administrative leave? He shattered a 10-year-old's arm, Captain. He abandoned her at a hospital. He filed no report. He ran. That's not a leave situation. That's a booking situation. Rostova bristled. We are following established procedure. Procedure? Z interrupted, her voice dropping to a dangerously low pitch. She slid another thicker folder across Rostova's polished desk. Is it also procedure to bury 3 prior excessive force complaints against Thorne? All dismissed? No action taken? The captain's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. I'm not here because my nephew's father is Steven Seagal, Captain. I'm here because one of your officers believes he has a license to brutalize children, and your department has, by its inaction, co-signed that license. Captain Rostova leaned back, her composure cracking. This department is under considerable scrutiny right now, Miss Petrova. You have until tomorrow morning, Captain, Z stated, her gaze unwavering. Fire him, publicly, announce charges, or the Seagal family, with our not inconsiderable resources and reach, will go very, very public with everything, and I assure you, what I've shown you is just the appetizer. Rostova paled. Are you threatening my department? I'm offering you a lifeline, Captain, Z replied, standing. A chance to demonstrate that you serve the community, not protect predators within your ranks. Use it wisely. By 2 p.m., the front of the OPD was a sea of angry faces. Protesters, galvanized by the leaked audio and Izzy's story, carried signs. Justice for Izzy! Badges aren't shields. We hear you, Thorne! Z stood on the periphery, observing, her phone a constant stream of updates. Detective Hansen called. HQ is in meltdown. They've frozen Thorne's pay, flagged his badge. He's under full review. Again. Not enough, Lena, Z said quietly. It's never enough until it stops. What's your next move, Stormcrow? I'm going to make sure the world sees his face and hears his name, until he can't hide anywhere on this planet. That evening, a professionally produced video appeared on Z Petrova's verified social media channels. It was simple, direct, and devastating. Z, standing in front of Oceanside General, one hand resting gently on Izzy's casted arm as the girl slept. Some people think a badge gives them impunity, Z said, looking directly into the camera, her voice resonating with cold fury. They think they can hide behind a uniform, a department, a code of silence. We're not afraid of uniforms. We're afraid of what happens when good people stay silent in the face of their abuse. Her gaze hardened. Officer Marcus Thorne of the Oceanside Police Department heard a child's pleas for mercy and chose to inflict pain. He walked away from his responsibility. Now I'm walking towards him. And when I find him, he'll understand that you don't lay hands on a Seagal, and you never harm a child. By sunrise Tuesday, Justice for Izzy and Cho Firethorn were trending globally. Protests had spread. National news shows debated the case, playing the horrifying audio on a loop. Civil rights attorneys were circling. Steven Seagal had landed hours before, slipping into the city like a phantom. Only Z knew his location, because at that precise moment, as the city held its breath, he was exactly where he needed to be. Sitting in the passenger seat of Z's unmarked sedan, parked down the street from Marcus Thorne's house, his eyes like a hawk's fixed on the peeling paint of the front door. It was 6:44 a.m. Showtime, Z murmured. The garage door rumbled open. Thorne, looking harried and pale, emerged in civilian clothes, a bulging duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He scanned the street, then hurried to a beat-up sedan, his own badge still conspicuously clipped to his belt. He was making a run for it. Steven didn't move, didn't speak. Z exited her car, a silent wraith in the pre-dawn gloom. Thorne didn't see her until he slammed his trunk shut. When he turned, she was there, an immovable object, calm, centered, radiating an almost palpable aura of danger. Leaving so soon, Officer Thorne? Z's voice was deceptively mild. His hand instinctively went to his hip, where his service weapon would normally be. Even off-duty, the habit was ingrained. Go ahead, Z invited, her eyes glinting. Make my day. It'll be the last decision you ever make." He froze. "What do you want?" he spat, fear finally breaking through his bluster. "I want you to feel a fraction of the terror you inflicted on a 10-year-old girl," Z said, her voice dropping. "She resisted. She—" The words died in his throat as Z moved. It wasn't a wild swing. It was a perfectly executed palm-heel strike to the jaw. Precise, controlled, devastating. Thorne stumbled back, stars exploding in his vision. Z advanced, a blur of motion, grabbing his collar, slamming him against the side of his car. Whoomp. "You grabbed a child." Whoomp. "You broke her arm." Whoomp. "You left her like garbage." He tried to fight back, a desperate, clumsy swing. Z pivoted, deflecting the blow with contemptuous ease, and expertly applied an arm lock, twisting his arm behind his back until he shrieked in pain. "Hurts, doesn't it, Thorne?" Z hissed, her face inches from his. "Did you ever once think about how scared she was? How much pain you caused her?" "She's lying. I didn't mean—" A swift knee to his solar plexus silenced him. He collapsed to the pavement, gasping for air. Z crouched beside him. "I should record this," she mused. "Let the world see the brave Officer Thorne begging." Then she reached into her jacket and produced a thick sealed envelope. She dropped it onto his heaving chest. "Civil lawsuit. Assault on a minor. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Subpoena for your court appearance. Restraining order. Signed by Steven Seagal himself. And a copy of Internal Affairs Preliminary Report, which, by the way, recommends your immediate termination in criminal prosecution." She stood. "You're done, Thorne. And if you ever come within 1,000 feet of my niece again next time, I won't be this gentle." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. 2 OPD squad cars, lights flashing, rounded the corner. "Get up," Z ordered. He groaned. "I said, get up." As 2 uniformed officers, their faces grim, cuffed a now whimpering Marcus Thorne against the hood of his own escape vehicle, neighbors emerged, phones already recording. No one looked surprised. No one defended him. The truth, raw and undeniable, was out. One of the arresting officers, a young woman with tired eyes, turned to Z. "You're Zara Petrova?" Z nodded. "My son is in art class with Izzy," the officer said quietly. "He says she's the best artist in the school. He was asking about her hawk drawing." Z met her gaze, a flicker of something unreadable in her own eyes. "She's not done drawing," Z said, her voice soft but firm. "Not by a long shot." The footage of Marcus Thorne's arrest, complete with Z Petrova standing stoically by as he was cuffed, the legal envelope still on his chest, became the new viral sensation. It needed no audio. The imagery was a powerful narrative of justice, swift and uncompromising. Inside the OPD, Captain Rostova, watching the news feed, sighed and picked up her phone. "Get the DA on the line and prepare a press statement. Full cooperation." The courtroom buzzed with an electric tension. Los Angeles County Superior Courtroom 7 was packed. On one side, Zara Petrova, immaculate in a charcoal suit, her expression unreadable. Beside her, Steven Seagal, a granite statue of paternal fury, his hands clasped. And next to him, Izzy Diaz, dressed in a soft lavender dress. Her arm in a brightly colored, removable brace. Her eyes, though shadowed, held a newfound resilience. Across the aisle, Marcus Thorne, diminished and pale, flanked by his beleaguered attorneys. The prosecutor's voice filled the courtroom. "We will prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Officer Marcus Thorne, acting under color of authority, did knowingly and violently assault a minor, Isabel Diaz, causing grievous bodily harm, then subsequently attempted to evade responsibility and justice. The first piece of evidence, the emergency call." Izzy's terrified voice, Thorne's snarling aggression, the sickening crack. A juror gasped. Thorne flinched. Then, the x-rays. The photos of Izzy's bruised, broken arm. The damning dispatch logs. Testimony from the EMTs. The ER nurses. Z took the stand, her account concise, powerful, and unshakable. Finally, Izzy. Led gently to the stand by a victim's advocate, she looked small, but her voice, when she spoke, was clear and steady. He asked for ID. I said I was 10. I told him my dad's name. He laughed. Then he grabbed my arm, and he twisted it. I heard it break. She paused, then held up a new drawing. It was a charcoal sketch of a small girl with a determined look, standing before a shadowy, menacing figure. But the girl was bathed in light, holding a single glowing feather. Below it, in careful, clear lettering, "Hawks still fly." The gallery was silent. Then, spontaneously, one person stood, then another, and another, until nearly everyone was on their feet. A silent, powerful ovation. After 8 grueling days, the jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus Thorne was led away in handcuffs, his career, his reputation, his freedom, all gone. Outside, as Steven Z. and a beaming Izzy descended the courthouse steps, the crowd erupted. "What now, Mr. Seagal?" a reporter yelled. Steven paused, put a protective arm around Izzy, and met the reporter's gaze. His voice, amplified by microphones, carried over the throng. "Now," he said, his eyes sweeping over the hopeful faces, "we build something better. Something that ensures no child's voice is ever silenced again. Something that ensures justice isn't a privilege, but a right." 3 weeks later, they launched the Guardian Initiative, a foundation dedicated to exposing corruption, protecting whistleblowers, and providing legal aid to victims of abuse of power. Z headed its formidable investigative arm. Izzy, now 11, designed its logo. A soaring hawk, its wings sheltering a multitude of smaller birds. Her art, once a private solace, was now a beacon. The fight was far from over. Retaliation came, swift and insidious. Cyber attacks, smear campaigns, veiled threats. But each attack only fueled their resolve. One evening, Z found a small, silent drone hovering outside Izzy's window. The next day, at a packed press conference, Steven Seagal didn't just condemn the act. He released the drone's tracking data, exposing the security firm hired to intimidate them. A firm with deep, shadowy ties to powerful figures they had begun to investigate. "You want to come after my family?" Steven's voice was a low growl that promised thunder. "You want to threaten a child? Understand this. We are Seagals. We don't just fight back. We dismantle. We expose. We protect our own. And now, thanks to cowards like you, our own includes every single person who has ever been wronged and had nowhere to turn." He gestured to Izzy, who stepped forward, no longer trembling, but radiating a quiet strength. She held up a microphone, her voice surprisingly strong. "My name is Izzy Diaz. A bad man tried to break me. He tried to make me silent." She looked directly into the cameras, her gaze unwavering. "But he didn't know. He didn't know about my family, and he didn't know that even a broken wing can heal. And hawks," she finished, a small, triumphant smile gracing her lips. "Hawks always fly again." The crowd roared. And somewhere, in the quiet space where fear had once resided, other small voices began to find their courage, knowing they were no longer alone. We hope you found this story compelling. Let us know in the comments where you're watching or reading from. We're building a community and want to hear from you. And please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're on a journey to share more stories like this, and your support helps us reach those who need to hear them. Every click brings us closer to our next milestone and strengthens this movement.